Welcome back to our course on PowerPoint 2013. In this section we're going to look at formatting paragraphs. So I have here a slide about the House of Commons in the UK. It's got 3 bullet points. Each of the bullet points is a paragraph. If I right click on the overall selection of all 3 bullet points, all 3 paragraphs, I see on the contextual menu there is bullets. If I hover over that and click on None, then I've removed the bullets from the 3 paragraphs and I can look at the 3 paragraphs now independently of those. Now when you're doing paragraph formatting in PowerPoint 2013, it works differently from text formatting in that if you just have the cursor somewhere, say somewhere within the first paragraph, any paragraph formatting commands that I execute will apply to the whole of the first paragraph even though I haven't got the paragraph selected. For paragraph formatting you only need to have the cursor in the paragraph. You don't need to actually select the paragraph. If I wanted to apply a paragraph formatting command to the first 2 paragraphs though, I would need to select the 2 paragraphs, just sort of swipe over them with the mouse, something like that. Similarly, if I wanted to apply a command to the 3 paragraphs, I'd select the 3 paragraphs like that. Now, in order to demonstrate these commands, I'm only going to use 1 paragraph in this section. So let me just delete the other 2 paragraphs. And then the paragraph formatting commands we apply will apply to the first paragraph as long as I have the cursor somewhere in that paragraph. So the first thing I want to do is to look at the horizontal alignment of the paragraph. So if I go to the Home tab in the paragraph group, you can see that one button is highlighted. It's the one that says Align Left. And Align Left means that that paragraph has the left edge of each line aligned in a vertical straight line. So you've got a sort of tidy edge on the left. Conversely, the right hand end of the paragraph is untidy. The lines are different lengths. A printer would say that this paragraph is ragged right. So it's straight on the left but ragged on the right. And with horizontal alignment controls we change that from Align Left to, for example, the second setting, which is Center. And center is ragged on the left and ragged on the right because for each line the text on that line is center aligned on the individual lines. This paragraph is in effect center aligned on the text box that it's in. The next horizontal alignment setting is Align Right, and with Align Right the right edge is straight, the left edge is ragged. By ragged we mean the lines are different lengths, so it looks a bit sort of untidy on the left. And then the 4th horizontal alignment setting is Justify or Justified. And what happens here is that with the exception of the last line, every other line is aligned on the left and aligned on the right. So this is, if you like, the tidiest setting. And the way that PowerPoint 2013 achieves this is by varying the amount of space between the words on each of the lines so that each of them is padded out to fit the available space on the line exactly. Justified setting traditionally has been used for things like newspapers and magazines, and you do see it quite a bit on web pages, particularly ones where there are several columns on a page and the person who's designed the page is trying to keep it looking as neat as possible. So they're the 4 possible settings for horizontal alignment. There's also a choice of settings for vertical alignment for a paragraph within its text box. And within the paragraph group there are 3 buttons on the right. The middle one is Align Text. Click on the drop down and you have 3 options there. These have live previews, so if I hover over top first, that's top aligned, middle aligned and bottom aligned, and you can see how choosing one of those causes the vertical alignment of the paragraph within its text box to change. Now incidentally there's also a setting at the bottom, More Options, that brings up what's called the Format Shape pane, where not only can we set the vertical alignment for the text in the box, but we can do things like adjust the margins, tell PowerPoint 2013 how or whether to do autofit, and several other things. We're going to come back to some aspects of this later on, but for the moment just be aware this format shape pane can be applied to a text box. Let's close that. And let's stick with the middle alignment for this paragraph within this text box. Now, apart from the vertical alignment within this text box, each paragraph has its own line spacing. And the line spacing really states how much vertical space each line within the paragraph has. Now, I can best show you what this means by showing you the line spacing in this current paragraph. Still in the paragraph group, we had the align text button there. If you go left from there and up a bit, there's a button labeled line spacing, and if you click on the drop down, it's currently set to 1, which means that each line in that paragraph, there are 3 lines in that paragraph, each line has 1 unit of vertical spacing. Now, using live preview, look what happens if I go to 1.5. Look at the paragraph. 1.5 gives each line in the paragraph more vertical space. It doesn't make the text, it doesn't make the individual characters any bigger. The characters are the same size, but they have more space, so it tends to give the whole paragraph more space. In some situations it will probably make it a little bit easier to read. If I go to 2, even more space, 2.5, and so on. So you can set line spacing to suit the particular requirements. I'm going to stick with 1 here, but just while we're here, let's have a look at this line spacing options at the bottom, because that brings up a paragraph dialog that we're going to look at in a minute or two's time. The paragraph dialog includes not only this line spacing setting down here, which is currently single, that's the same as 1.0, but it also enables us to specify how much space we want before a paragraph and after a paragraph. So if you want to move a paragraph down the page, leave a bit of space between it and the paragraph before, or put some space after it, then you can use these settings to change the spacing before or after. The line spacing is the spacing within the paragraph itself. So I'm going to stick with single. Now, there are situations when you're dealing particularly with text in a paragraph that you need to position and space the text carefully, as well as deal with issues like alignment. And in order to show you 1 or 2 of the tools and techniques here, I want to introduce you to the ruler. Now, on the View tab there is a checkbox for ruler. We've not used the ruler so far, so click on ruler, and you get a pair of rulers. You get a horizontal ruler at the top of the slide pane here, and another ruler down the left hand side. Now, the ruler is graduated in whatever your regional unit settings are. If you've used the ruler in other components of the Microsoft Office suite, in some of them you can change the units from within the Office component itself. In the case of PowerPoint, it doesn't work that way. In the case of PowerPoint, the units used are the ones you have set for your region in your control panel settings in Windows. So in this case, my machine's set to English United States. The units I'm using are inches. If I wanted to work in centimeters, I would have to go into the regional settings in Control Panel, in this case in Windows 8, and change the settings to metric from inches. But for the moment, I'm going to assume we're going to continue to work in inches. And I want to look first of all at what are called the indent settings for this paragraph. Now, the indent settings can be done in 2 completely different ways. One of them is to use this little pair of controls here. They're like the old metal controls you used to get on very old style typewriters, where you have 2 little wedges that you slide along. Now, if you look at the paragraph itself, the UK Public Elects, I'm going to drag the top one of those wedges along to the 1-inch mark. Watch what happens. I've left the other one where it is, and the first line is now indented by 1 inch, a sort of old style beginning of a letter. But I could have not moved that one at all, but instead moved the lower one, and then I would have had this situation where the first line isn't indented but the second and subsequent ones are. So that's how you can control paragraph indents using the ruler. Now there is an alternative way of controlling paragraph indents using the paragraph dialog, and if we go back to the Home tab, click on the dialog box launcher in the bottom right hand corner of the group, brings up that dialog, and as you can see now we have the settings that have been set using the slides on the ruler. So indentation before text 1 inch special, and it's a hanging indent, so we've got a 1 inch hanging indent. If I change that to be a first line indent, click on OK, we'll see what happens. What we have now is that we have an overall indent of 1 inch, but in addition on the first line we have a 1 inch indent. So you can actually adjust the indents using either method, either using the dialog box or by using the ruler directly. So I'm going to use the ruler to put those indents back, both of them back to 0, and I'm going to look now at tabs, because many people use tabs in order to align text. And with the cursor where it is before the word "the" at the beginning of the paragraph, the UK Public, if I press the tab key it will take me to the first tab position. Press it again, takes me to the second tab position, third tab position, and so on. Now by default, and this is the case with most of the templates for PowerPoint presentations that you'll see, there are no tabs set, so they default to being at half-inch intervals if you're using imperial, that's inches style measurements. But you can set tabs as well. So let me just delete the 3 characters that I just typed. Let's go back into that dialog again, and this time use tabs in the bottom left hand corner. Now there are no tab stops set here, so as it says at the top right there, the default tab stops are at 0.5 inch intervals, which you can actually change. You can make them at a different interval. But supposing I want to set some tab stops, let's suppose I want to set a tab at 2 inches, so type a 2 for tab stop position, click on set. I want to set another one at say 5 inches, but I want this to be a center tab. Set that. And let's suppose I want to set another one at say 8 inches, and I want that to be a right tab. So I've now set 3 tabs. 2 is a left, 5 is a center, and 8 is a right tab. Click on OK. Click on OK. Now watch what happens when I press the tab key from the start of the paragraph, the UK Public. Press tab once, that takes me to the 2 inch mark. Press it again, takes me to the 5 inch mark. Press it again, takes me to the 8 inch mark. Now take a look at what's on the ruler, because those tab marks are now set on the ruler, and by the shape of the tab mark you can tell that 2 inch one is a left tab, tell by the shape, 5 inch one is a center tab, 8 inch one is a right tab. And in fact you can move those about, you don't have to use the dialog. So if I wanted to move the center tab, I could literally drag it to a different position. Again with the 8 inch one, drag it to a different position, and you can set up and use tabs much as you would in any kind of word processing program as well. And of course it's very straightforward to go back into the dialog again, into the tabs dialog again, and then if I wanted to clear a particular tab, I just select it and click on clear, or indeed if I click on clear all, then everything's back to the default tab stops every half an inch. So they are the main aspects of paragraph formatting in PowerPoint 2013. I'm going to briefly look at text box formatting a little bit later on, but for the moment that's it. But for one thing, and that is, generally speaking, paragraph formatting is also something that you would apply at the appropriate level. So if you wanted all paragraphs to be left aligned, you would apply that at the master level. If you wanted a particular style of text box on a particular style of slide for which you were using a particular layout, you may, for instance, do middle vertical alignment on that layout master. It's not a good idea to rely on doing all paragraph formatting at the slide level. So as with the other aspects of the use of masters, layouts and slides that we've looked at, make sure you apply this to the appropriate level. So that's it for this section. I'll see you in the next one.